Darkness swallow my sight. Endless miles no end in sight. Engines screaming, souls collide. Lost on this nightmare ride. Concrete serpents turning cold. Gravel secrets tales untold. Highway ghosts they haunt the lane. Echoes of my fear and pain. Concrete serpents looking cold. Gravel secrets tales untold. Highway ghosts they haunt the lane. Echoes of my fear and pain.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Nightmare Road. I am one of your hosts, Deacon, here with a very, very mysterious
SOS, and here with the absolutely stunning and lovely
Missy Jessie,
Woohoo.
and I'm here with the most wonderful Ash.
Oracle, and I am here with we lost one, CIA agent.
Dirty Birdie.
we have, and Decon is back or gone. I can't ever tell with the
I
screen.
can't tell.
Okay, so we have
Wait,
a
am I
really
back?
bizarre case, and some of you may have heard of it, but I heard about this case several years ago, and I thought we need to do this one because this is creepy and weird and bizarre. And this is the Wolves of Palmyra, Maine, and
Oh boy.
this is yeah, it's a crazy story. So,
Mhm.
so and Dirty Bird, jump in when I'm faltering here. But basically, there was a family that lived in another part of Maine, or they might have even been in Vermont. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, the dad gets hurt. He had worked at a mill for like 20 years, I think like a paper mill or something like that, and he hurt his back. And
Really
What?
bad. Really
Huh?
bad. Really bad. He got put
Yeah.
on disability.
yeah, so he
Yeah.
had like several discs that were trashed in his back from an injury at work. And his wife grew up in Palmyra, so she was able to find a job, and they decided to move back to Palmyra area. And when I looked at Palmyra, it's a really small community. Like, I looked on Google Maps, and I'm looking at this community. It's really wooded around there. It's super wooded. So they were able to either rent or buy, I'm not clear. I've heard both, a farmhouse that sits real close to the woods. There was a lot of property with the farmhouse, and they were able to get this farmhouse, and I think like the front of it had was really open, and then there was woods off to the front of the farmhouse. So when you're sitting on the front porch, it's kind of like you looked over pastures, and then you saw the deep woods. It was,
Oh,
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Heaven,
I
right?
would love that.
Yeah.
There's also a small pond on the property.
Yeah, there was a
Even
small
better.
pond and a really nice barn, which I'm all for. And when they moved there had always been kind of a thing between the man and wife of the family. She didn't want guns in the house. So when they moved to this place, she said, look, I don't want guns in the house, because they had children. And she's like, I just don't want them to be able to get their hands on the weapons. So he and his son built like a nice big gun cabinet in the barn. So they were able to lock up, and he had a lot of weapons. He was able to lock up his weapons in the gun cabinet, and then they locked up the barn just to like make double sure that the kids couldn't get these weapons.
Yeah, that's because the husband was a very avid hunter. That was his thing.
Yeah, he grew up hunting. She didn't like it. So, but it was more so that she didn't want the kids to get their hands on the weapons. So, and that factors into the story. Yeah. So, I guess at one point that there was a daughter who was getting close to going to college, and she was not thrilled about living in this farmhouse in the middle of nowhere in northern Maine. She's like, and this is when I looked at Palmyra, it's north of Bangor, so it's north. You're up there, and she didn't want to go, but what are you going to do? So she's she had a boyfriend who joined the military, and he would visit on and off before he was going to boot camp, and they would go like hiking out in the woods, and they had found, and they always took the dogs with them, and the dogs would run off, and one day they ran off into the woods, and they were tracking these dogs trying to get them home, and the dogs had found like a big like a den of some sort
Big
up for
huge hole in
animals.
the side of a big huge hole that looked unnatural.
Oh,
And
interesting.
before this, the boyfriend was visiting them, and they were on their porch. They were having coffee and talking. And of course, it was nighttime. That was their ritual, is to sit outside and at night before bed and have a cup of coffee and talk. And while they were doing that, they noticed out in the woods that there was some strange lights out in the woods, and it would flash up in like a heartbeat. It'd be like dump, 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 and stop, dump, 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 and again. So the boyfriend and the dad figured there was poachers on their land, so they went out towards the woods. They got towards the edge of the woods, and the dad yelled out. He's like, "Hey, you can't be here. You can't hunt here. You need to leave." And then the boyfriend and the girlfriend went out for a walk. They were walking in the woods, let the dogs off because the dogs were hunting dogs. Dogs caught a whiff of something. They ran around. They tried to get them back, couldn't get them back. Finally, they found them around this giant burrow, and they were like, "This is weird. This is unnatural." And the boyfriend said he got real close and stuck his head in the burrow, and then he heard a loud, low growling coming out of it. And he's like, "Nah, nope, we're done. We're going home."
Wait, a burrow like a hole, or a burrow like a donkey?
It was
Burrow.
like a big den, like
Yeah.
you would expect an animal to live
And
in,
he
right?
commented
Oh, okay.
that
Yeah.
it didn't look, because they were both. I guess they were both. The boyfriend, he hunted too. He said it was unnatural the way it was shaped. It was almost perfect, perfectly round.
Yeah, so they got really nervous, and they went back to the house. And I don't know how long after they found this big den, um how long it was before this whole night of terror kind of unfolded, but Maine
Memorial
is
Day
known to
weekend.
what?
Sorry, it was Memorial Day weekend that
Wait,
It's
this
always
all.
Memorial Weekend.
I don't know how long though between the
Yeah,
time they found the den to the time the night,
yeah.
but but because when you read on this, there's a lot of conflicting dates, and but anyway, the we'll get into the story, and then we can talk a little bit more about the couple. But they so they're sitting, the husband and wife are sitting on the porch one night drinking their coffee, and that was their, like you said, the nightly routine of have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, something like that, and visit right about the day, because she's working now where she was a stay-at-home mom before, and he was working, so it was kind of their way to connect again. And um the dogs, they started barking, and they take off through the clearing to the edge of the woods, and they freeze,
Ooh.
and they're barking, and they stop. Like, normally those dogs would take off. If they're tracking something, they're going to take off, right?
Mhm.
And they turned around. Didn't they turn around and come back?
They turned around and they came back.
And
They
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 were
were
really
hauling butt.
nervous.
They were hauling butt, and the wife adored these dogs, and she's like, "Okay, this is weird. This is off. This is way off." And they come barreling towards the house, and she's like, "Okay, well, they'll stop," and we'll say, "Oh, good boy." she opens the door to the house because she thinks that they're going to stop and like wag their tails and get pets or whatever. She opens the door, those dogs will go flying into the house and disappear.
Oh.
So they take off across the clearing with some really high-powered flashlight, and they decide to walk out towards the edge of the woods and figure out, like what's out there. When they get out there, they're shining their light, and I've read two conflicting accounts of whether or not there were wolves in this area of Maine at this time. Some accounts say wolves were still present in Maine when this occurred, and other accounts say that wolves had been eradicated from this area of Maine. So, not sure.
Huh.
But they shine their light, this pretty high-powered light, into the woods, and they're seeing eyes. But they're a lot taller than wolves, like off the ground, than you would expect wolf eyes to be. And
Yeah.
there's like 5 or 7 sets of eyes. And
There was 3 sets of eyes at first, and then 2 more showed up after
so,
that.
yeah, that's enough to, give you the
I'm having
heebie-jeebies.
like flashbacks of like the hills have eyes.
Oh.
But now you got to remember that he's not armed because his guns are locked up in the barn. And they're really nervous.
Shit.
They're seeing these lights, these eyes now in the woods. And this is this pretty freaky, So they decide to go back to the farmhouse and go ahead, Dirty Bird, and start in on what happened.
Well, okay. I remember most of it. So she takes her flashlight and she flashes it out across the field that they had because this is a big, powerful flashlight. Shines the light out into the woods. She sees 3 pairs of eyes looking back towards the farmhouse. She's like, and then she moves over and then she sees another 2 sets of eyes walking up. The husband goes, "Oh, nope," grabs her, and they run into the house. So I don't know if the husband knew what's up, but he's like, "Those aren't wolves. Those aren't whatever." Because he's an avid hunter. He's like, "Those things are big. Whatever they are, they're big. Get in the house."
Do you think it was like a bear?
No.
He thought it was a canine, but he's like, it was big. He couldn't figure it out. He's like, they look like wolves, or the eyes appeared to be like wolves, but he said they were high off the ground. Like you'd expect eyes to be, what, 2.5, 3 feet off the ground, somewhere in there.
Yeah, like
and they were a lot
dog
taller.
or something like that.
And he kept telling his wife, "You need to get in the house now. You need to get in the house now." And he was like dragging her in the house. He was very uncomfortable immediately. He's like, "We need to get in the house."
Yeah, that's like such a bad, like no survival instinct at all. If your dogs run out there and you don't have any firearms, why would you go outside? Stay in the house.
Well, why would you
go back into your democratic
you go across
house?
the field? Yeah, you would. Yeah, so they did find the dogs. So then when they get in the house, they start looking for their dogs too. And they're like, "Where are the dogs?" The dogs had wedged themselves between the side of their bed and the wall. They were so terrified. They had pushed themselves up and wedged themselves in there. They were terrified.
Yeah, that's when you
know
need
when a dog
dogs.
is scared when they do that.
Yeah, and having had an interaction with the wolf at my previous house, even my big male bloodhound, who was pretty good size, he was almost 140 pounds. When that wolf was in our yard, that dog was like, nope. They know immediately when they're not top of the pack. That dog wanted in the house, like, I'm nope. And they were quiet. Like my dogs wouldn't bark. They were quiet. I lived in a big A-frame and they were down in the bottom bedroom, like, no, I don't want to go out there. They were terrified.
Yeah.
So I get that.
Yeah, it's because wolves are monsters. I'm glad they've been mostly eradicated.
Wolves are nasty. So the husband and the wife run in the house, slam the door, and they go to their front window that looks out towards the field and the property. And the wife still has a flashlight. She's flashing out through the window, and they can see these 3 these three creatures coming through their garden. And the husband noticed that they alternated from going from all fours to on 2 feet, walking, and then back on all fours. So he's like,
Ew.
this is not a bear. This is something else. So immediately survival instinct kicks in, and they throw stuff against the doors, they put stuff across the windows, and I think the wife ran upstairs to tell the daughter what the heck was going on. Of course, she was sleeping. She's like, something's going on, something's going on. And she, I'm sleeping, go away.
I wonder if
Yeah.
she called her boyfriend, then a real man showed up with a firearm.
So,
Well, I
So
mean, at some point, come on, you got to put your foot down. And like, if your wife's like, I don't like firearm, then why would we move to the woods? You know, sometimes you just have
You
to.
do have a point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, just
Yeah.
I would, yeah. I thought
sometimes.
this is ridiculous,
Oh
but
yeah, it's just sometimes you got to show, who wears the pants around the ankles around here.
so
What?
so
while they're in the house, they notice these wolves come up onto the porch, and they're trying to get in. And they show a picture of this farmhouse door after this night, and what they did to this door. Like, it was they were digging at this door to try to get into this house, and
So,
it wasn't
yeah.
just it just wasn't the door too.
So before that happened, the dad he's like, okay, we got to get weapons. So he gets out on the porch and he notices that there's 3 of these creatures coming towards him, and he makes a decision to go to the barn. Get to the barn. I think get to the barn. And either that or I got kind of 2 conflicting stories. So he tries to run to the barn, and he's waving his arms to get the lights to click on. In the meantime, there's 3 of these things coming towards him. He gets the light to click on, and that's when he notices there's three to this side, and then when he turns around, he sees the other 2 on his other side that he didn't see before. But that, for some reason, that light kept him from ripping him to shreds.
What year was this?
This was 2006.
I am sorry, but I just think that this guy's going out there and he's like, I'm here. The meat is here.
Well,
Yeah.
so in some of the comments, and I don't know what time the movie came out, somebody said,
Yeah.
okay, this sounds like The Dog Soldiers, the movie set in Scotland, and which was one of my absolute all-time favorite werewolf movies. And it does sound a lot like The Dog Soldiers.
It does.
It does. But so I don't know when that came out versus when this happened, or was, you know what I mean? Anyway, keep going.
So he didn't quite make it to the barn, but he did make it to his truck. That's the other conflicting story, though, is that he ran out there. One of the stories is he ran out there waving his arms to get to the barn, and the light kicked on. But another account was he's trying to make it to his truck, and so he can go and get help. And he's running out towards his truck, and he tries to stick the keys in the door. And of course, in every horror movie,
He drops the keys.
right, he drops the keys. Ping! These creatures hear it.
The running car. Sorry.
Yeah. He drops the keys. These creatures hear him, and they start getting towards him. So he goes towards the barn and waves his arms to get the light to kick on. It kicks on, and for some reason, they won't go into the light. Now, mind you, this poor dude has he's got a messed up back. He's in constant pain. So he gets there, the light kicks on, and then he makes the decision to bolt it. He's running back, waving his arms to keep the light on, and he runs right back into the farmhouse and slams the door shut. They barricade the door with whatever they can get, and this whole time, the mom's upstairs hearing this going on, and she's watching out the window, watching this happen. She's like, ah! So he gets back in the house, and they arm themselves with knives and run upstairs to the daughter's room, and that's where they stay for the rest of the night. And then in the meantime, these things are they're clawing at the walls, they're clawing at the door,
I
they're
think
stalking around.
they did say that a couple of them had actually made it on the roof of,
Yeah, they made it
and
on the roof.
I don't know how, I don't know how they would have done that. That's why I'm saying this sounds so much like the Dog Soldiers, because this is exactly, there was a barn, there was the car, they got on the roof.
They're saying
Yeah.
is
Not
don't
the
li-
first time I've
don't
heard of
read
a
the story and
dogman
just
getting
watch
on a
that
roof.
movie.
Huh?
Did you
What,
say?
Tikon?
Oh, I said. So what you're saying is, stop reading this story and instead go watch that movie. That way you know how the story ends.
Yeah.
It came out in 2002, by the way.
What did?
Dog Soldiers did?
Oh,
Yes,
Oh,
2002.
see.
well,
Yeah.
this show's over.
Well, they've
All right,
gone,
way to bring
so
things
they've
down.
been on, they ended up, they were so frightened by this whole experience. They waited it out all night long until the sun came up. They left. They either moved out of the house or they sold the house. It was, I can't, like I said, conflicting stories. They either rented it or they owned it. Anyway, doesn't matter. They left. Now, I did read an interview, and they've gone on talk shows at the time. They were interviewed. They told their story. A lot of people were like, yeah, whatever. But there was a man who lived in that house before who had a very similar experience to what they had with these wolf creatures that came out of the woods. Did you read that, Dirty Bird?
No.
Yeah,
Interesting.
he had
Did you
lived
read
there
the
for
story?
about,
Did you read the story about the guy that moved in after them and the house itself?
no, let me finish with the guy that was before them, because he came out to kind of give them some credibility, and he said that he lived in the house before them and he had a very similar experience, but it didn't sound like he had a family. He was there and he was able to fend them off, but he was probably armed. He didn't say, but I'm imagining he was probably armed. But what happened with the family afterwards?
So this guy and his wife or girlfriend, they move into the same property that they just left after this encounter. And he was saying that a lot of paranormal stuff was going in the house. I think he might have saw a little girl in like 19th century clothing around in the
Hmm.
kitchen area, stuff like that.
Huh.
But he was also saying that he was sleeping in the loft and it felt like somebody walked up and slapped his foot. And when he woke up to see what the hell is going on, he saw a man and a woman in 19th century clothing standing at the foot of their bed.
Wait,
No, I didn't read that. But
Yeah,
was
he,
there ever anything else about the wolves or the dogmen kind of thing? I don't know what to call them because they didn't sound like normal wolves.
no,
No.
but
this is turning into a different story. I wonder if this cabin was built like right by a nuclear power plant, on top of a pet cemetery, on top of an Indian burial ground that was struck by lightning where there was radiation seeping into the house, and then there was a voodoo spell cast onto the house, and it turns out that there was a pentagram, in the basement, and then the calls were coming from within the house.
well, that's what
Wow.
this guy was saying about all the paranormal activity in the house.
It's a lot.
He was saying that maybe it's
Jesus.
connected, like the the ghost husband and wife and the little girl were probably maybe the first victims, and they're trying to warn them to not stay here because they're gonna get got.
Well, so you had the lights in the woods, and they never figured out what those things were, right?
Yeah. And then the
And
strange burrow shows up.
well, I would think that the den or whatever that was connected with those wolf things.
Yeah.
That
Or
was
somebody's burying a body, one of the two.
Yeah, it's probably the
because
wife.
it sounded like it was pretty large.
So one thing too that gives me like kind of skinwalker vibes.
Yeah.
In a way, doesn't it?
You know, just a little bit. Like they see strange lights, and then
Yeah.
what if these are shadows? What if these are shadows of skinwalkers? I mean, they're not just in one area.
Yeah, or they could be like hellhounds or something. You know what I mean?
What if it's just some jerk in like another dimension? And he's like, I gotta let the dogs out.
Who
Turns
let
them loose every once in a
Who
while.
let the dogs out?
What if
He'll be like,
Oh, I'm
I'll be
sorry.
back in the
Is that
morning to
another
pick 'em up.
podcast? I apologize.
what if it was Robin Williams without a shirt?
Wow, that he was really hairy. I will give you that.
Oh my God, he was.
So I wonder
It was
if
like-
if those
Yeah.
Monchichis dolls were designed after him. You remember those?
Yes.
They were like
The
little
Cheers?
bears. No,
Chia pets?
no, they were called Monchichis, and they were like these little bears with super furry arms, and they had the big hair.
And hair.
I don't remember them, but they sound
No?
terrible.
I remember them,
Yeah.
sort of.
Well, this is coming from a guy who loves dolls, so
Oh God, I know that's
Yeah.
right.
I do.
So
Yeah.
woo.
it's
I just,
okay.
I just want to
Hillbillies.
give them a. I just want to give them a home.
Yeah, okay.
Why?
Just wait
Some
till
love.
I find a haunted doll. I'm shipping it
They
to
need
you.
love. It's okay.
You should. Those I love haunted dolls.
Okay,
Uh,
you can.
Okay.
Why do I love dolls?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Oh, God.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
So
Hang on, everybody.
yeah, so okay,
Are we
it's
ready for this?
no, it's not. It's not a bad story. So when
Mm-hmm.
in El Salvador, when you're of like a wealthy
I like it
family,
when you say that.
I know.
I can't say it.
One more
It's
time.
Salvador.
Yeah, it must
There?
probably because I'm DeLorean.
Listen,
So when you're of a wealthy family, right? Every year, if you have a daughter, every year they give you a nice porcelain doll, like to kind of show appreciation that you know that you're around. So my mother, she didn't have the best relationship with us. She was actually abandoned by her mother because they had to leave one of the kids behind, and she was the youngest, so they left her in an abandoned farmhouse to die. And my uncle found her
Jeez.
and adopted her. But anyways,
God.
so yeah, he went back to see if they left anything for him because he had already moved out because he was, already married. So he's like, I'm gonna go take a trip back to the old farmhouse to see if they left any furniture or anything for me. And he went back, and then he found my mother outside playing in the dirt by herself. She was one, and they had just left her. They couldn't take all the kids, so then they're like, we gotta leave one, so they left her. Anyways, so
Chelsea, are you okay?
yeah.
so
Really
and
emotional.
so anyways,
That's sad.
so like I said, my dead sister. No, so when as you're growing up, your family, they give you dolls and everything. So my mother never had that. So as a grown woman, after she married my father and everything, she would buy herself a doll every year, and to like show herself appreciate because she never got that growing up. So I guess it was kind of like, yeah. So anyways, I would go with her. We would go to like thrift stores because they had like a bunch of dolls, and she would look at them and she's like, wow, this one's beautiful. Then I became to kind of associate how they used to make, how happy they made my mother.
Mhm.
So I used to, just kind of started connecting both things. So now whenever I see a doll and I always like picture, how happy they made my mom, in that moment. So
Aw.
I like
Very
dolls.
sweet.
I like porcelain dolls. So there you go. That's
They're
the
still
big.
creepy, but
that's,
that's a really
well,
sweet story.
Present for you, for your mom.
Aw.
Is an Antonio Banderas blow up doll.
No,
Anyways,
Have you guys seen those creepy boyfriend pillows? Those That's off the charts
The
weird.
one-
Okay.
That's a subject for another time.
The ones with my face on them that you can find on our website.
Hey, shh. I have the shower curtain. Be quiet.
Oh. Anyway, that's it. Is there anything? We're kind of getting off topic. Is there any more to this story?
Not that I found.
So now
I
what?
still think
No,
it's
I just thought it was an interesting story. That's all.
It is.
It's a cool story, but I don't know. What do you think they were more like dogmen, or what do you think they were, Dirty Bird?
I like the skinwalker theory.
Hard to say. I would go with dogmen.
I'm thinking more dogmen only because there was the den. Because you wouldn't think a skinwalker. Well, maybe. I mean, obviously
Maybe, but
they were in that area for, you know,
I think both.
So
both.
in
Still
El
think it
Salvador,
was
when
just
you
a
have
lazy dog owner, open a portal, turn him loose. He's like, I don't want to pick up poop today, especially from these guys. Turn him loose in another dimension.
Can you imagine
they
how
eat the
big
neighbors,
that
who
pile
cares?
would be?
You know what? That's probably like my neighbors who let their dog come down here and just poop in my yard. They're like, hey.
That's what I mean.
get
I
him,
had a-
Jesse.
I had a
At least
pretty,
your
I had a pretty
neighbor's
serious
dog.
theory.
I didn't know they pooped in their yard. Sorry. Go ahead.
At least your neighbor's dogs won't eat you alive and then run back.
What am I doing on
No,
this show?
I'll just take the poop and put it on their porch.
Come on.
Do it.
Okay.
I'll help you.
So, talking about dens, I was talking with a friend of mine
I have a den.
who's a wildlife biologist, and he said he used to go into dens in the middle of winter and tag grizzly bears. That was his job.
Oh,
And do you know
hell
that
no.
they're not asleep? Like everybody thinks, so they're asleep, like Yogi Bear's asleep all winter. No, they're not. So they have to go in there. This is before they had like cameras that could do this. You'd have to crawl in there and see if Mama was awake. And then if she wasn't awake, dart her really fast and then crawl back out. And then wait. And then crawl in and pull her out so that they could take all the measurements and everything. Yeah, they're not asleep all winter.
No,
So a lot of
especially
times,
not.
Pulled out a bear?
yeah, they
Yeah,
have
once
to
you
pull her
train
out.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially male bears. So that's the one thing that a lot of people.
Mm.
That's why hunting bears is really important, because the males are not all the way asleep, because they wake up a week before the female and the cubs, so they can go and smell out, cubs, and they go in there and they eat the cubs. And especially because through pheromones, they know which cubs are there, so they can actually pick up the scent a lot easier. So they'll go in and cannibalize their own children. So that's why when you're going into those dens, you're also risking a lot, because it could be a male bear that's not actually asleep. He's just waiting,
He's just
So, yeah, just eating his
Imagine-
cubs.
Yeah, imagine
Ew.
if that girl's boyfriend was a little more brave and actually went into the tunnel.
Well, or
Who would have
stupid.
thought that?
But the dad never was able to get the guns out of the barn, and I'm hoping that they learned their lesson and that you keep your firearms close to you.
Exactly. That's what I was
You
going
don't-
to say.
What was he
You
gonna
don't
do?
lock
Be
them
like,
into a-
hold on, guys, I gotta open the barn real quick. Oh no,
Yeah,
hold on,
y'all wait
please.
there. And not only
No,
that,
he's
but
like,
you're
"Woo, I
risking
got the
your
meat."
firearms. Your firearm, they're gonna rust. I mean, being out in the weather like that, even though it's in a barn, that's not
Yeah,
good.
'cause
There's
of
some
the-
people that don't deserve to have guns.
The moisture.
Just saying.
Yeah, especially
Like that
because
guy.
it was Maine and the moisture, You probably didn't even oil them up or anything like that. And so,
No.
Probably
Yeah.
not.
So anyway,
there's
lesson
that.
number 1: keep your firearms close to you. Right. Lesson number 2. What's lesson number 2? Keep your
Be a
firearms close to you.
dumbass.
Don't be a dumbass. Don't.
Keep your
And don't
lights
wave your
on.
There you
arms
go. There you go.
out there going, I'm food, I'm
Firearms
food.
close. Right.
Yeah, that's why I was
know.
keeping.
I don't know if the story is true. It's just
It's iffy.
Lesson
It's
number
iffy.
2: if you have dogs and your dogs come back and they're in the home, you have no reason to be out there unless you have livestock. Even then, if you have firearms in a place where they're not accessible, I do not recommend. The hell? Well,
I guess he's leaving.
I guess that's lesson number 3. So yeah, if you have
It's
no
like, that's
business
it.
being out there,
I'm leaving.
don't go out there, right?
Yeah.
Just don't.
I
go.
mean, there's times when I've had things going on here that it's spooky. I'm armed. I go out there because I want to see what's going on and I want to make sure the livestock's okay, but it's spooky. So,
Yeah. And lesson number 3, I mean, through education, I mean, with your children, a good educational course, you shouldn't be, they shouldn't be curious. A lot of accidents actually happen in the home because the kids have no understanding of what a firearm is, so the curiosity takes over. What is that? And then they, even if you think that they're in a barn, they're not going to get in there. If you have a determined teenager, he's going to, be an idiot. So
what you're saying is actually be a parent. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to be the responsible gun owner. And if you don't trust, I mean, if your wife says that, I don't trust the kids and blah, 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 I don't trust, maybe you just shouldn't own firearms. Maybe you shouldn't move into the woods.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I'm with you on this.
So I guess that's it. All I
Get
got.
dolls.
Yeah, just get
well,
dolls.
okay, so I guess pull the crowd here.
What is happening, Dirty Bird? Are you getting mugged?
Yeah, Dirty Bird, what's going on?
My mom lost the cat. I found it.
Okay.
In the house?
I'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Okay.
So, so Jesse, you think this is
I think it's
shapeshifter?
Skinwalker. I do. I think it's has to do with something because I think I get the feeling that they can morph into different things. Does that make sense? Especially
Do you
if they
think
get
the
do
haunting is connected with the dog activity?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. What do you think it was a warning? I don't think the family that initially had the story about these wolves had any hauntings.
Probably I think they did. I just don't think that they realized what was going on. I think it was a lot of they moved out into the woods to create a better life. Maybe they were running from something differently, I guess. And to create a better life and how people want to move into states to get away from things.
Well, she grew up there.
Okay, well, I mean, it's still, that's what the feeling I get, that this was something they wanted to try, build something better. If that makes sense.
I mean, but what was the reason in the movie? I mean, probably it's the same reason in the story.
It's the same reason.
No, the movie, The Dog Soldier, is completely different.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
it's more of a horror movie,
If you're already stealing the plot, you might as well steal the...
No, there's just a lot of similarities in the attack part. So, The Dog Soldier is completely different. And if you haven't seen it, it is so worth watching. It's so good.
I'm not so good. Watch it.
You're not going to watch it?
I think you should. You will learn a lot.
It's really good.
Do they have Scottish accents?
Yeah, because they're Scottish actors.
No thanks.
And it takes place in Scotland.
No thanks.
And they wear kilts.
See, men in dresses. Yeah, no thanks. If I'm gonna watch a drag show, I'd probably watch.
Have you not seen Braveheart? Do you remember what they did before
Braveheart
they fought the English?
Okay, well, first of all,
and then they went.
Okay, a couple of things wrong with Braveheart. Number one, in the era of William Wallace.
Nothing wrong with Braveheart.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that movie.
Okay. No, there is.
Okay.
So
no, not at all.
In the area of William Wallace, they wore pants. They were not wearing kilts. Number two, in the movie, William Wallace's father was killed by the English army. Historically, William Wallace's father was a member of the English army. Number three, they did not fight that battle out on a field, on a giant field. Instead, they fought it on a bridge, hence the name, the Battle of the Bridge. And then number four, William Wallace didn't do much fighting. He was actually he was captured pretty early on in the in the battle before it even really began, and he was tortured and turned into thongs because they skinned him. Because they
because
realized
he
that
slept with somebody's wife.
no, it had no. Actually, it wasn't even that. What it was that William Wallace was playing both sides. He was actually taking money from both sides, from the Scottish and from the English. So in that area, if you're a deceitful person, they may even call you a Wallace. Anyways, that's it. So, anyways,
Still a
guys.
great movie.
You have to poo-poo on everything.
Also,
I know.
he didn't wear face paint. So
It's still a great movie.
no, it was terrible.
Can't-
Because
No.
Mel Gibson, if you watch any Mel Gibson movie, I mean, South Park had the greatest joke how in every Mel Gibson movie he's always tortured. Doesn't matter what it is, he always ends up getting tortured. So he's obsessed with torture.
Because
That's
he's
why.
hot and
He
we
is.
like those scenes.
That's my
You
life.
know, you're a party
Torture.
pooper, and I'm never watching a movie with you because you will just like.
Well, I don't want to watch a movie with you either. I don't want to watch a movie with any of you.
Hey,
I just want to be
I
left
got us
alone.
exorcism.
Great movie
Any-
person.
Anyways, thank you guys for this episode of Nightmare Road. I was your host, Deacon. Also, guys, check out the Patreon.
Yeah.
There's a lot of content on there. They have
So much.
so much stuff. It's awesome. I even throw in a story. I might do one once a week. I don't know. See how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Even I
that'd
have
be
a
great.
very short story. It's dumb. I'm just gonna tell you right away. It's a
Oh,
stupid
come
story.
on, stop it.
So-
It's not dumb.
Shut.
You guys can head on over to TeePublic. We have Nightmare Road merch, so check out your merch.
Yeah.
I think I just put up the voodoo doll.
It's shower curtain.
Yeah, get the shower curtain. It's just a belt with nipples. So
That's what it sent me.
so you guys can head over there, get a shirt, get a mug. It's good stuff. Actually, I'm really impressed with the way that the art actually goes on the mugs. I didn't think they were gonna look that good,
Right?
but they look pretty good. I'm gonna have a monster.
Yeah, it accentuates your nose. It's great.
Oh, thanks. I do have a big nose. I'm kind of like if you order Adam Sandler off of Temu. So, anyways, guys, check out that. That's all I got. Remember, guys, to always look both ways, especially if you find yourselves on Nightmare Road.